York City first, where thousands of migrants have already arrived, and it's causing problems in that city's shelter system. This week, officials are opening a storied hotel that shut down during the pandemic. Gwen Hogan is a reporter for the city in New York. When these migrants who are coming or here, are they being sent by Mayor Eric Adams' Republican critics like Texas Governor Greg Abbott? What's happening?
The vast majority of people that we're seeing arriving lately and also for the past several months in New York City are people that wanted to come to New York. There's a patchwork of NGOs and churches and volunteer organizations that are helping migrants arrive in New York City. For months it was by bus, and now we're seeing a lot more people arriving by plane or airplanes.
And to be clear, if these people, and many are arriving by plane, they've been sent there by officials at the border, they're awaiting their immigration hearings. These are legal entries, people also coming in on buses, and some aid groups may be bringing some of those. Those are hoping for immigration hearings in New York.
I mean, it's a mix, right? Some people have been or will be, when they arrive here, try to set up immigration appointments to begin their asylum seeking claim. But I mean, one of the big challenges that advocates have been saying is that we actually aren't providing enough legal support to folks who have arrived, which may mean that they're going to be sort of more dependent on New York City for shelter if they're not able to eventually get their work authorization.
Okay, so let's talk about that shelter. New York City is the only big city in the U.S. with a right to shelter law, which is why last week Mayor Adams had to temporarily lift parts of it. So talk about the law and the lifting and the effect.
That's right. So again, one of the only major cities in the country that has this requirement that if somebody seeks shelter, the city has to provide it. And there's legal precedent and laws that establish what the minimum standards are in shelters in the city. But last week we saw we actually saw an increase in folks arriving the week before Title 42 expired. And as that was happening, the city said, you know what, we need to sort of create additional carve-outs so that we can house people in this law. So Mayor Adams signed an executive order, and one of the provisions of that executive order that's now lifted is the city's requirement to provide sort of adequate space, bathrooms, and kitchens to homeless families. And even before that was lifted, we already started to see the sort of potential violations of this longstanding rule when there was this big flux a week and a half ago. For example, families with young kids were sent to a police athletic gymnasium and sleeping on cots in a big dormitory setting, which, sort of violates long-standing regulations in New York City about how children can be housed.
Well, that brings us to the Roosevelt Hotel. This is in Midtown Manhattan. It had been closed. Now it's going to be open, even though, as you've been pointing out, not every room, for instance, will have a kitchen, as the law requires. That's been lifted. But tell us more about this hotel being used.
Well, that's sort of just the latest hotel that has been deputized to use for migrants who've arrived. I mean, overall, the city has been using hotels for months and months to house migrants. So they've had to open, the number is now up to 140 emergency sites. The city has said we don't want to put children in congregate settings, but there's sort of this, the window is open for them to do that if they have to.
Well, and if you've traveled in New York recently as a tourist from outside, maybe gone in to see a Broadway play, you've seen this. You've noticed this, especially around the Midtown, bus station. But what kind of impact is this having on New Yorkers? What's been the response?
So, in certain places you're seeing, as a hotel opens up in a neighborhood, there's an effort to organize food donations or clothing drop-offs. We've seen individual neighborhoods sort of galvanized around specific facilities in their communities. Folks that I've talked to want to work. That's why they're here. They want to work more than anything, and we're already seeing them enter into sort of the informal economy in New York City, whether it's restaurants, whether it's like delivery workers, construction day labor. And, there is ongoing labor issues. The governor of New York City said we have 4,000 open farm jobs, but there's obviously a lot of bureaucratic and logistical hurdles in order to get folks working permits.
Well, and then another question is, how do you get them from a hotel in Midtown Manhattan out to a farm on Long Island or upstate New York?